Thank you for joining today's session. We will be getting started shortly. We do have a lot of folks signed up for today's session, and we want to give everyone a moment to log on and get connected so that we can dive into today's session. I do want to thank you all for joining us today. I am Jasmine Garrett here with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Today's session is an informational overview and application walkthrough of the Cannabis Business Development Grant Program. This session is designed to support potentially eligible applicants by providing a detailed overview of the program's purpose, eligibility, eligibility criteria, application process, and required documentation. Attendees will gain insight into key compliance requirements and tips for submitting a strong application. A quick housekeeping note, we do suspect that many questions will be answered in today's presentation. However, you are able to write in questions at any point during the presentation using Zoom's Q&A feature. It is one of your Zoom command options and will allow us to make sure we're able to get back to you and let others see these questions and answers as well. Today's session is being recorded and will be posted on our NJEDA and YouTube pages. The slides and other resources will also be available in the next few days. Now to get us started with the presentation, I will shift things over to NJEDA's Senior Advisor of Community Development, Aubrey Flanagan. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Welcome, everyone, to today's session. As Jasmine stated, my name is Aubrey Flanagan, Senior Advisor of Community Development here at the NJEDA. Today, I will provide a high-level overview and application walkthrough of the Cannabis Business Development Grant Program. We will review basic eligibility, required documents, and submission of the application. We do have a lot of information to cover. So as Jasmine said, if there are questions, please enter them into the question and answer box, and one of our team members will provide an answer. So thanks, and let's get started. For those unfamiliar with the mission of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, NJEDA exists to grow New Jersey's economy by advancing equitable access to opportunity and in driving inclusive community-centered investment. At the intersection of economic development and social impact, the cannabis industry represents one of the most dynamic and equity-focused frontiers of that mission. Through targeted support for small business owners, particularly those historically excluded from historically excluded backgrounds, NJEDA is leveraging cannabis tax revenues from the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission to reinvest in the community. The CBD grant program builds on the foundation laid by NJEDA's earlier seed equity and joint ventures programs, two of the largest publicly funded startup cannabis grant programs in the nation. With the CBD program, we continue this momentum by providing direct financial support to New Jersey-based operators to help stabilize and grow their business. So the CBD grant is a pilot program that provides $75,000 in reimbursement funding to eligible recreational cannabis cultivators, manufacturers, retailers, and testing laboratories in New Jersey. The program is intended to offset early-stage operational and compliance costs for small businesses working to build and sustain their operations in the state's emerging cannabis market. The total pool for this pilot is $4.75 million, with 5% reserved for businesses located in NJCRC designated impact zones, and these are municipalities that were disproportionately impacted by prior cannabis laws and enforcement. Should additional appropriations be made by the governor or the legislature, they may also be integrated into this funding stream to further expand the program's reach. Eligibility. Who can apply? Applicants must hold an active and current NJCRC annual license digital card as per the final recommendation issued by the NJCRC Office of Licensing in either Class 1 cultivator, Class 2 manufacturer, Class 5 retailer, or as a testing lab. Medicinal-only testing labs are considered ineligible. You must be in good standing with the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development, and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and possess a current tax clearance certificate to demonstrate substantial good standing with the New Jersey Division of Taxation prior to approval. You must also have at least $75,000 in eligible expenses with supporting documentation and proof of payment. purchased and paid for within the 36-month look-back period from the time of application submission. Regarding the NJCRC annual license, this document must be uploaded at the time of application, or your application will be rejected without the opportunity to appeal or even correct it. It is an automatic rejection. Also, conversion letters and conditional licenses are not acceptable. Eligibility who cannot apply. Applicants who have previously received NJEDA cannabis funding through the seed equity or joint ventures programs are not eligible for this round. However, you may have received an award from one of these programs, but if you are never able to accept funding or did not receive any funding at all from those programs, you may proceed with the CBD application. Multi-state operators, defined as companies operating cannabis businesses outside of New Jersey, are also ineligible, as are alternative treatment center licenses. This program is intentionally focused on recreational New Jersey-based businesses in critical supply chain functions. Eligibility, what can be reimbursed? So the eligible expenses are costs you've already purchased and paid for in the last 36 months that are directly related to running your business and are listed here. Things like rent with an executed lease, payroll for employees or contractors, and professional services such as legal, accounting, marketing, branding, HR, security, etc. However, items such as inventory, supplies, equipment purchases, construction costs, and fines or penalties are not eligible for reimbursement. Nonetheless, all submitted expenses are subject to NJEDA review and approval, meaning it may not be explicitly listed here, but could be eligible or ineligible based on the parameters of the program. Failure to provide at least $75,000 in eligible expenses and supporting documentation will deem your application incomplete and impact your approval. Program terms. Applications will open in 1 week on November 13th, 2025 at 10 a.m. right here on the NJEDA CBD webpage and will be accepted until funding runs out. Awards are going to be made on a first come, first served basis as we receive completed applications. So submitting an application does not guarantee funding. If your application is incomplete or if any part of your documentation is unclear, NJEDA staff may contact you to request additional information in a designated cure period of 10 business days. This cure period will allow you to correct any information, but it is critical that applicants respond as quickly as possible. So keep a close eye on your primary email. Your place in line is not held during this process, and delays in response may result in another applicant receiving funding ahead of you. Applications that are fully complete and do not require a cure period will take priority and move towards approval ahead of applications that do not require a cure period. If we do not receive the correct information in your designated cure period, your application will be declined. There is also a non-refundable $750 application fee due at the time of application submission. However, if we receive more applications than we have funding for, you may receive an oversubscription notice email. This means that your application is on hold in case more funding does become available. If more funding does not become available, your fee will be refunded to the same payment method you used on the application. If more funding does become available, your application may be considered, but you would be notified of any next steps. Applicants are limited to 1 award per employer identification number, license, and location. Each business must remain open, operating, and in good standing for a 24-month compliance period following execution of the grant agreement. During that time, awardees cannot sell or transfer their license or operate outside of the state of New Jersey. Defaults within 12 months will result in a full recapture of funds, and defaults between 12 and 24 months will result in a 50% recapture. Required documents at the time of application. When you sit down to complete the application, applicants will need to provide their NJCRC annual license digital card, their tax clearance certificate, a certificate of formation indicating you are an NJ-based business, and a completed NJEDA budget template demonstrating your $75,000 worth of eligible expenses. Addition to this budget template, supporting documentation should also be included, and it should be clear with verifiable proof of payment for each expense. So canceled checks, front and back, credit card statements, digital scans of paper receipts, or bank records with the expense highlighted are all acceptable, but they must be clear, legible, and clearly tied to the applicant or applicant business and meet all eligibility standards. We're going to go through some examples of what we're looking for supporting documentation and proof of payment a little later in the presentation. For payroll reimbursements, a WR-30 or equivalent payroll documentation is required. For rental reimbursements, you must submit a completed NJEDA landlord certification form and a copy of your current lease that is signed and dated by both parties, includes the entire term and all the information pertinent to the lease. Please note that submitting a complete, accurate, and well-documented application is key to timely award and approval. Review, award, and approval. Applicants are encouraged to review the applicant checklist available on NJEDA's website to prepare all materials before starting the online application. Ensuring that every document matches your application information will help us process your submission efficiently and increase your likelihood of receiving an award. Here is an example of the NJCRC Annual License Digital Card. As per the final recommendation of the NJCRC Office of Licensing, this is what we are looking for in one of the eligible classes. And again, this document must be uploaded at the time of your application or it will be automatically rejected. We are not accepting conditional, we are not accepting conversion letters. An automatic rejection means no opportunity to cure or appeal the decision. Here is a tax clearance certificate. This is what we're looking for the tax clearance upload. No other types of forms will be accepted, and we do not accept certificates with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. So make sure the correct entity names are on here, yours and ours. Here is a quick picture of a blank NJEDA budget template, which you will complete prior to starting your application. So then you can transfer this information to the application and upload all of your supporting documentation. All right. Now that you have an overview of the program structure and eligibility, we're going to move on to the next step of the process, which is submitting an application. Please ensure that you follow the guidelines carefully as you submit your application and have all required documentation ready prior to starting your application. We highly encourage applicants to go to the NJEDA CBD website, download the applicant checklist on the right-hand sidebar, review the documentation required, and have that at the ready on your computer before you start. Applicants can access the application portal login page from the EDA webpage for the Cannabis Business Development Grant Program. If this is the first time you're using the portal, you will need to register and confirm your email. If you do not have your login information, please click on Forgot Password Username button and you'll receive an email to reset your information. This slide is helpful if you attempt to register but already have an active account with this email address. You'll need to send yourself an invitation code so you can access your account. New users will need to register your email address. Then you will create a password that contains characters from 3 of the following 4 classes: uppercase, lowercase, number, and non-alphanumeric special characters. Then you will click register. Please create and test your account ahead of time and be sure to write down and/or save your username and password. You can always reach out to our customer care team if you need assistance logging in. After registering your email, you'll be prompted to fill out your profile information. Please make sure that the email address listed will be the primary way the EDA contacts your business. This email should be monitored and checked regularly to make sure you're receiving information from us. Sometimes it may go to your junk or spam folder, so please be sure to check any and all inbox folders. New users, once you confirm your email address, you will click Confirm Email. The email will be sent to the address listed. Follow the instructions within the email to fully access the application portal. Again, if you have any issues, please reach out to our customer care team. Their information is found here. Once you're fully logged in, navigate to the Online Application Center. On that page, you will find the Cannabis Business Development Grant Program. Select that program. It will take you to the first page, and you're going to hit Create New Application. Please note that your application will be saved every time you click Next. The first page will take you to the language access question. Please provide a yes or no response. If you need assistance with the language access, we will notice this on your application and reach out accordingly. The primary point of contact is going to be the person acting on behalf of the applicant and communicating with the program team. Again, the primary point of contact email is where all correspondence will be sent and should be monitored. Any field in the application with a red asterisk is required and must be completed. If it's not completed, the application portal will not allow you to advance and you'll receive an error message at the top of the page. If the primary point of contact is not an authorized individual to sign legally binding documents on behalf of the organization and is only acting as a liaison between the program staff and the business, the question should be answered no. Certifications later in the application will then need to be completed by the individual with that authority. If you are an authorized individual, such as a business owner or CEO, answer yes and complete the application in full. Authorized representative. If the primary point of contact is not authorized, you'll be asked to fill out the contact information for the authorized representative. This page will only appear if you answered no previously. Again, if the primary point of contact is not the chief executive officer, owner, or equivalent, this page will appear so you can then enter this information. If you have a consultant, while not required, some applicants may choose to use consultants to support on the grant application. If so, please have them fill out this page here. Legal counsel designation is not mandatory, but can be provided if helpful. Media contact. If the primary point of contact is not authorized to speak to the media, fill out this section as well. Applicant organization information. Here, we're collecting information about the registered business applying for the grant. The registered business should be the small business that is open and operating at the location under that license. Enter the legal name, entity type, date established, EIN, NAICS code, a short description, and upload your tax clearance certificate here. If the applicant or any related entities have previously received EDA assistance, details of that funding are required. Certification that the applicant is not in default on any other programs is also required. License information. Again, applicants must upload their Cannabis Regulatory Commission recreational annual license digital card as per the final recommendation of CRC in one of the following classes: Class 1 cultivator, Class 2 manufacturer, Class 5 retailer, or Class 7 testing labs. This document must be uploaded at the time of application or your application will be rejected without the opportunity to appeal. Conversion letters are not acceptable. Here on this page, you will enter your license number, select your class type, enter the expiration date, and upload the license. If you have multiple licenses, please upload the primary license that indicates the location and operation that expenses were purchased for this application. The address indicated in your budget template must match the license uploaded to the application. If for whatever reason you have incurred expenses at multiple addresses because your business moved locations at any point during the 36-month look-back period, here's where you would enter that previous license if applicable. You will also need to confirm you have not received funding, previous NJEDA funding from joint ventures or seed equity. Project location. So the address that it's on your license, that's on the application associated with your business would be here. You will list the address of your business location to ensure it matches the license information. Clicking add location will open a new screen, so don't be scared about the pop-up. Here's where you would enter your address, answer the drop-down questions to confirm, and press submit in order to save this location. And this should be your primary location. Again, if for whatever reason you have incurred expenses at multiple addresses because your business moved locations at any point during the 36-month look-back period, here's where you would enter that previous address if applicable. So once you are finished adding your relevant project locations, you'll be asked to complete 2 more drop-down questions to affirm you are not a multi-state operator and do not plan to become one, as MSOs are ineligible for this grant and remain ineligible for the duration of the grant's compliance period, which again is 2 years. So this is the most important part of your application. These are your project expenses. You're going to be asked to enter each expense from that budget template and to upload the supporting documentation to the application itself. It is critical that you have saved digital copies of this information organized and readily available for when you sit down to complete the application in order to have the best chance of being considered for an award. So of course, each applicant will have different expenses they are requesting. And if you click your add expense type, which is how you add your first line item, it will open a new screen. So again, don't be afraid of the pop-up. So for example, if you are requesting reimbursement for your rent, here is where you would upload your signed and completed NJEDA landlord certification form along with your current fully executed signed dated lease. Then you will enter the total expense amount. So if you are including multiple months' rent paid with multiple checks, you can add up that total amount you are requesting for reimbursement and then upload the front and back of the canceled checks that you paid for each month. So you can upload up to 21 documents to this line item at a time. Here is an example of our NJEDA landlord certification form, and also an example of a lease. Your lease does not have to look like this, but it does have to include all of the relevant information that we can affirm. So it must be fully signed, dated, and executed. We must have the term of the lease as well. And for proof of payments with the lease, again, canceled checks, front and back from your bank, as well as bank statements with the expense clearly highlighted. You can also redact all the other expenses that don't associate with this expense. So another top popular example that we believe you'll be requesting for reimbursement are the professional services. If you are requesting reimbursement for professional services, you're going to need to please indicate the type of expense, whether it's legal services, marketing, consulting, and if you don't see it here on the dropdown, you can select other, as any other outside service that may be needed to operate an eligible cannabis business in NJ or obtain, maintain any license or authorization to operate from the NJCRC may be considered for reimbursement. So each expense identified in your budget should have at least 2 pieces of supporting documentation here. One justifying the expense and the price, the date, and the business location that matches the application, and another to confirm that it is paid. So please be sure to upload both the supporting documentation, like an invoice, a quote, a purchase order, with a proof of payment, like a canceled check, a credit card statement, bank statement. We will take digital copies, digital scans of paper receipts, as long as it's it's very clear as to what the expense is, who it's being paid for, and it came out of obviously your business account. Again, if you are providing credit card statements, receipts, or bank statements, please highlight or circle the transactions. I'm going to show you a little example of what we're looking for. So for each line item, say you were putting in a legal invoice, we want to see the invoice of every single service broken down and itemized, and then we want to see the bank statement that you paid for that. You cannot just send in the invoice that says, oh, this invoice was paid by Civic and Bloom. We need to see the proof of payment from your bank statement, okay? Particularly for legal invoices, we know that they can be very, very long. That's okay. We want them all. If you are carrying over a previous balance from a retainer into this invoice, and it says previous balance being included in this invoice, we want to see all the itemization for all the services provided from that previous balance, okay? So if there's any expense, there needs to be a category and there needs to be an amount and an item attached to it. So every expense must have associated information that clarifies what the expense is, what it's for, and that it is tied to the business and the location of the business on your application as well as your license. If you are submitting reimbursement for payroll, we will take similarly these types of reports as well as proof of payment. We will also take an NJWR 30. And this is the last piece of your project expense page. You do have to upload that budget template at the end, right? So you get to the project expense page, you take each individual line item, you add it to the application, you upload all of your supporting documentation and proof of payment to that line item, and then you upload the budget template itself as the last step. That will wrap up you inputting your project expenses. Here's a larger example, right? You have to include the address at which that expense was incurred, and on the invoice, that address should be listed. Your checking account, of course, should have the business address. Anything that's not clear or doesn't match, we will probably reach out to get more information. So the diversity, equity, and inclusion section collects optional demographic information. Answers have no impact on eligibility for assistance, and providing information is optional and to be used for tracking purposes only. Within each of these questions, there is a prefer not to answer, and that can be selected if that is the case or if the question is not applicable to your organization at all. Applicant representation, again, so this is important. If you indicated that you are not an authorized signer, you will need to download, complete, and upload the appropriate certifications that are signed by the authorized individual on behalf of the applicant company. After this, the legal questionnaires and certifications will follow, including those for non-involvement in prohibited activities in Russia or Belarus, application certifications, and our program-specific certifications. So I'm going to show you some screenshots of those documents and application pages, but all of these will need to be filled out by the authorized individual. Okay. Russia and non-Belarus is our certificates. You will have to print this out if you are not the authorized individual and have the authorized individual sign. Then we will do the application certifications. And then the program-specific certifications. This acknowledges that you understand the compliance period, our recapture provisions, that you had to be in good standing, that you understand everything that happens when you receive this grant. And towards the end, you're going to be prompted to pay the $750 non-refundable application fee before advancing. This is only payable by credit or debit card, and there is no waiver for this fee. Finally, you are going to complete the electronic signature section, confirm everything is uploaded, and click Submit Application. Do not submit until ready. Applications may not be edited after submission. You're going to see a submission confirmation page and receive an email verifying that your application was successfully submitted. That email will go to the primary point of contact listed at the beginning of the application. At this time, I've concluded the application walkthrough and the presentation. A reminder that this session is recorded and will be provided on our landing page along with FAQs, eligibility information, and program documentation. So a few other important reminders before we start looking at questions. Submitting an application does not guarantee funding. Applications that are complete at the time of their submission will be reviewed ahead of those requiring additional information. Awards will be made first come, first served based on those completed applications. If any documentation or information in your application is missing or unclear, we may reach out to give you a chance to cure in a 10 business day designated cure period, but your spot in line is not held while you correct it. If we do reach out, please respond promptly with the correct documentation. Delays could cause you to miss out on funds. Make sure your contact information is accurate and that someone from your team is checking that inbox and any junk spam folders regularly. Again, we highly recommend visiting the NJEDA landing page for the Cannabis Business Development Grant, downloading that applicant checklist, reviewing all eligibility and documentation requirements before you start your application. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending today's session, and I'm happy to discuss any of the common questions we're seeing live. Of course, if you have any other questions at the conclusion of this presentation and as you prepare your application package and get your stuff together, you can always reach out to the Cannabis inbox at njeda.gov. We can answer your questions there and get you ready to apply.